Friends, can we halve the global greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and reach a net zero before 2050 arrives? As the 2021 UN IPCC report says, emissions were down during the pandemic. However, can the targets be really met? This and some other similar concerns is what we will discuss this Saturday. I'm sure you will find it interesting. Friends, everything comes at a price. If a country achieves economic growth, that too has a price. Environmental conservation versus economic growth must be really understood. Unfortunately, we have to contend with tragedy of the commons problem, where every individual has an incentive to consume a resource at the expense of every other individual, with no way to exclude anyone from consuming. Whereas environmental sustainability is concerned with environmental protection and maintenance for future generations, the economic sustainability is concerned with the present, the immediate or the short term. Economic growth means an increase in real output or real GDP, where GDP is the total market value of all the finished goods and services. Therefore, if we produce more and consume more, we impose costs on the environment. We consume more non-renewable resources, cause higher levels of pollution, add to global warming, and cause potential loss of environmental habitats. More than 3 decades back, the United Nations had published Our Common Future, also known as the Brundtland Report, in recognition of the sustainable environment work done by Harlem Brundtland, former Norwegian Prime Minister. And he said, sustainable development is what meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. As a civilized society, we need to recognize that there are generations that live after we go, and that they too must have in abundance the bounties of nature similar to what we have. There is a trade-off between economic growth and available environmental resources. As a nation, we must be able to estimate the possible quantities of various products that we produce if they depended on the same finite resource for their manufacture. There is a certain opportunity cost to this. Besides, it may affect the long-term sustainability of the environment. Are we not aware that several of our policies have resulted in a decline of the natural resources such as forest covers? Trees were cut down to meet the demand of wood, or to set up power plants, or to build roads. Even the sources of oil, coal and gas have declined over the years. We routinely overfish, most times for food and sometimes for profit, for greed. Overfishing has shrunk many fisheries around the world. Fish catches have also declined due to warming of the oceans and greenhouse gas emissions. Pollution imposes external costs too. Increased consumption of fossil fuels, burning paddy residual and burning trash, they are all some factors that cause pollution. Winter exacerbates it, resulting in strong smog. Increased carbon dioxide emissions or the carbon footprint is equally bad. An enlarged footprint contributes to global warming and volatile weather. An acceptable value is about 2 tons per person per year. Pollution, be it in the air, land, or water, causes damage to nature, affects health, results in global warming and volatile weather and soil erosion and many others. Plastics waste, its production and disposal are the other critical factors in high pollution levels and enlarged carbon footprint. Almost 8.5 million tons of pandemic associated plastic waste was generated from 193 countries a couple of years back, with 26,000 going into the oceans, representing 1.5% of the riverine plastic drainage discharge. Now, it constituted hospital waste, test kits, PPE surgical, PPE N95 and packaging. They still continue to do so. In India, almost 35 lakh tons of plastic waste was generated 4 years back and 31 lakh tons the previous year. Our plastic waste generation more than doubled in the last 5 years, with an average annual increase of 22%. It's also true that up to a certain point, economic growth worsens the environment, but improves after as use of technology rises. Of course, there is a Prevention and Control of Pollution Act in India, enacted 1981 and amended in 1987. How effective this is when state governments themselves are involved is a debatable issue. What must we do? If we want to leave a better world for our future generations, we will need to act fast. Large-scale shift to renewable and semi-renewable resources such as wind or solar power must be used. The current target of 150 gigawatt of total renewable energy capacity must be revised to 1000 gigawatts by the end of this decade from the current target of 450 gigawatts. One important research suggests that renewable energy will be cheaper than burning coal very soon. Currently it's not. Semi-renewable resources are farmlands. We must practice crop rotation, and organic farming to prevent deterioration in the fertility of the soil. Use of artificial fertilizers and pesticides that permanently cause soil erosion and damage must be given up. If trees are cut down, the nutrients of the soil get washed away, making the soil less fertile. In some areas, farmlands have turned into forests. Very unfortunate. Now, for ecological sustainability with economic stability, India must seriously look at levying a carbon tax as a social cost to account for external costs that we are incurring. Technology must be harnessed to the maximum for greater efficiency, lower costs, and less environmental damage. It is possible to replace the petrol and diesel running vehicles with cars that run on electricity, on battery, stored energy from renewable sources. Probably it is time to, rather than targeting GDP, we must target living standards and environmental indicators in our story of economic growth. Even as we eulogize the electric vehicles as good alternatives, replacing the existing petrol and diesel vehicles, we must also critically examine if they are really environmentally friendly. In fact, there are reports that they are worse. The reason being the manufacturing process of the batteries and the method of charging them. Did you know that manufacturing an electric car needs twice the amount of energy required to manufacture a regular car, and that mining and processing lithium, cobalt, manganese and indispensable raw materials required in the battery manufacturing process are also massive energy guzzlers? Actually, electric vehicles leave a much larger carbon footprint. Are they then the ideal solution as environmentally sustainable alternatives? While electric vehicles do not emit poisonous greenhouse gases and nitric oxide, they run on electricity that is generated by combusting, dirty fossil fuel. As a long-term perspective, our universities must research cheaper zero-emission fuel cell technology which ensures continuous flow of electricity and can be highly durable. Though electricity is generated by mixing oxygen and hydrogen, which then chemically react, which is not expensive, their storage can pose several problems. The trade-off, however, can be very, very vexing, and it has to be worked out. With that, friends, let me end this Saturday's episode. I've given you a lot to ponder upon, and please remember, everything comes at a price. With that, I end today's episode with a promise to be back the next Saturday. Until then, thank you, dhanyavad and namaskar.